Alhamdulillah bil alameen. Assalamu alaikum. I just think this is a topic that is definitely long overdue within the Muslim community, in particular the African American Muslim community. Myself growing up in South Los Angeles, not having much contact with the Muslims as a non-Muslim. As a youth, I was a non-Muslim and I was raised in the church by my parents. And at the time, we didn't really see a lot of presence of the Muslims in where I was raised. And I know that might not be the case for everyone, but at least in our community where I was raised, we didn't see the Muslims as often as we saw other folks that were out there proselytizing, if you want to use that term, to try to get folks on the right track. So, this topic, I believe, at a period in time when I was raised, when gang violence and crime, was on a high, on a rise, we fell right into it because we really didn't see no other way to go in terms of who we were or who we identify with in the community, because there was nothing that we saw as attractive or that gave us any type of hope of being anything other than criminals and gang members. And that was very unfortunate. And outside of going to church every Sunday with my parents, the only thing we saw in the community was, folks trying to become these big time drug dealers. And it was a time, that I'm sure you recall the Reagan administration during the Contra scandal, the Oliver North scenario of the cocaine trades coming into our country, coming into America, south of the border. And, that was a interesting time. And the way I remember that time is being a youth, and overnight, literally seemed like overnight, folks went from angel dust and being strung out on PCP to crack cocaine, just flooding our streets. So when we talk about this subject, I'm often reminded of that time period for me, where when it changed, when it really that really big shift in the decline in Black families in the community, really taking a hit from that. When young youth that were young like me were selling drugs to the parents of our neighbors, that's the dynamics that were created during that Reagan administration. We didn't know anything about cocaine, didn't know what it was. It was just called rocks. I'm sure y'all remember people. It was referred to as rocks, and rock cocaine flooded the streets of Black communities. And everybody's seen an opportunity to make money. And, it was a way to make quick money, and it affected us in a devastating way. And I say that to also say, where were the Muslims? Where were the people that were out there in the streets trying to make a difference? And we didn't see it. We didn't have it. We were literally left to our vices, and that's what we ended up doing for a very long time. And that's why so many of us in my generation became Muslim. When we finally fell in the mid 80s to prison life and started serving time, many of us converted to Islam. And it's interesting. And I don't know how many people really did their research, but if you look at California, and particularly when so many of us went to prison in the mid 80s, when Bush administration came in during the Gulf War. And that's when the war, on drugs and the war on crime was on that path. And many of us went to prison. Hundreds and thousands of Black youth went to prison at 17, 18, 19 years old. A bunch of us was in prison. We were thrown into prison. And I can tell you right now, because I served 22 years, and almost half, I know for a fact, at least half of those individuals are Muslim now. At least half of those individuals became Muslim while they were in prison. So what does that tell us? And I'll just stop on that note for a second, take a pause on that.
Wow. No, good points, very good points. And before I transition to the next person, I just wanted to just state that you made me remember just how much Islam actually used to mean to people converting to Islam, right? What it symbolized for them. It symbolized like discipline. It symbolized salvation, right? And it perhaps still does, symbolize that for many of our people. I'm hoping that's still the case. A lot of those young people. But alhamdulillah, it's always good to hear that of course people are becoming Muslim, in the prison. But the question becomes, so what do we do after that? So.